Okay, so here I am going to try to show how I plan to do the binding for this journal. So I have sewn in these flaps. So there's, for each signature, there's going to be a front flap and a back flap. And I'll just glue the signature in there. And the reason I'm doing this is because this one, I'm going to have more than one signature. And whenever I try to sew them in straight into the binding, they are not lined up straight. And that kind of irks me. So I was trying to think of a different way to do that. And so this is what I'm going to do. So you can put it on the front and the back, just glue it on there, and then go back and even sew it in there and add more texture to it. So for me, it's much easier to sew in a straight line than pamphlet stitch or use the 2-hole stitch to get it in there with more than one signature. With, of course, with most of my journals only have one signature. Well, because of this very reason. So hopefully I'll be making more journals with more signatures in there. And this one, I could only put 2 holes, so I don't always do like the pamphlet stitch. Sometimes, most of the time, it's just the 2-hole binding in there. Yeah, so that's a little bitty journal that I made to match another journal, which I'll show later. See, what am I doing here? I have to do this voiceover because my audio is not working very well. It goes in and out. So some parts you can hear me really well, and other parts you can't hear me at all. So I'm just showing like how even the stitches are, because it's easy to sew a straight line. Not so easy to stitch in signatures in a straight line, for me at least. But I think this binding will work well and open up a door to be able to add more, or have thicker journals, I guess you can say. Because I get them single signatures as thick as I can. So yeah, here I am just showing that I put the page extensions in. I had a bunch of papers from when I was doing greeting cards many years ago, like 5-6 years ago, and where I would just layer stencils over stencil over stencil over like a 5x7 little card. And I had, I don't know, hundreds of them that I'd made, and I just never used them. So now I'm putting them in these journals and putting page extensions on them to make them a full page, basically. So yeah, so no sewing on this journal yet, which is the next step once I get all the extensions in, which I am sure I did, but I have to go back and just make sure. And then on this one, I think here I was going over like, did some stamping, took like a, what is it, Prismacolor woodless color pencils, and just making marks in there. And I may do some like jelly printing in the journal to just get it more cohesive or whatever. And definitely on the other journal that I haven't sewn in yet, I'm going to be doing some jelly printing in there, like across the spread of the page. I love doing that for some reason. There's a little tag, the only tag in that little journal. I need to sew on the tab. Well, I glued it on. I just need to make it look like it's been sewed on. And then I think here in a second I'm gonna like look for the other one, the one that is matching. I couldn't find it, and then I finally found it as soon as I turned the video off. But I mean, I don't know if I'm gonna keep them together like a, mommy and a baby journal. But I was just kind of making a cute little journal to match the bigger journal because of the like leftover little pieces of paper. So I like making those little bitty ones. Are cute. And here I may use the same binding, but it's going to be more narrow or thinner. And then I'm talking about how our dogs messed up a white comforter, so I just took the fabric from the top of it because it is textured. And now I have like tons of that, and I'm just using that to have little rags, and then eventually on a cover or wherever in my art. So yay, dogs. but yeah, I think that is about it. I will show more when I get that 3 signature journal further along. Then I'll do a flip through of all those. But thanks for watching. Okay, so now I have all 3 of the signatures, not bound together, but just all the pages in each signature sewn together. And then I've done all the stitching or sewing. And I'm just showing that the binding I had planned for this is way too narrow, so I'm going to have to make a new one and make the little tabs wider. Excuse me. And I'm just using like, I had got a pack of scrap fabric from the thrift store, and I'm just tearing it up. I had used it for like just a rag to clean up paints and stuff. This design always reminds me of like picnic. But yeah, I'm just making, there's 1 tab, 2 tab. Oh, I guess I made all of them. And I went to take to the sewing machine and sewed them in. And I'm just showing the difference in, you know, narrow, and I had to make it wider for thicker signatures. And when I do put these in, I don't, oh, here. I was gonna glue them in, and I do start to glue them in, but I got impatient and it was getting a little messy, which I usually don't mind, but I ended up not doing the glue. And well, I do a little bit, and I end up taking it off and drying it, and then just taking it to the sewing machine and adding the signatures in. I need to get a new glue container thing. Like, I've had that one forever, so it's like kind of dried up in the nozzle. That's why I dumped it out. I mean, this would work, just gluing it on there. You don't have to sew, you can just glue it on there. But I was impatient. It was just sticky, and it was, I don't know, it was just different. I wasn't in the mood for sticky and taking a long time, I guess. I didn't have any Fabri-Tac, which works very, very well, but it takes a while to dry. And when I'm putting these signatures in, I don't want them like pushed so far back up they're touching like the end of the binding. I want there to be room so they can flap back and forth. But then when I did that, it looks like, I don't know, there's a little bit too much space in between signatures. I don't know. I'll see how it is when it's like totally done. Because I don't really like it too, I don't know, flip-floppy. But I don't like it super stiff. But there's definitely plenty of room to add whatever you want to add, you know, to this journal. It can get much thicker. I think here I'm deciding, no, we're going to take his crap off. Maybe I hadn't decided yet, but here in a second I will. Yeah, there we go. Then after this, I just took a blow dryer and dried the glue. Which, it's good to have the glue on there because it kind of stiffens it up a bit. I actually took glue, which I'll talk about whenever I do the final flip through. So I went ahead and just sewn these in, the signatures in. And now I'm just deciding, did I not sew them in close enough to the spine, or I know I gave enough space from the spine so they could flip back and forth pretty freely. And then I have like 2 tabs on the end where I thought I was going to put the cover in between, but I didn't do that. But I'll explain more when I do the final flip through. So I'm just showing like this is what I had planned to do with the cover. Put them in between those 2 tabs. But I ended up just sewing the tabs together on the inside of the cover. That's how I did it. Okay, here is the flip through of this 3 signature journal that I got done with last night. Well, so I haven't done the closure, which I may end up just like sewing this on and just making a long rope or something. All right. So it is very stringy. And so I had these 2 flaps. After I put the signatures in, these 2 flaps were still kind of free. And I was going to do something where, well, first I was going to put the cover in between these 2, but then I didn't want to cover this up too much. And then I thought about just leaving this 1 flap open to add something else in there, but I just kind of wanted to get done with it. So the signatures that I put in, they are not pushed all the way to the spine. There's about a little bit of room, like I don't know, a 1/4 of an inch room in between. That way they can kind of flip instead of be like stuck on there, if that makes sense. And then I did sew in between the signatures. There's 3, so signature, sew in between, signature, sew in between, and then a signature. So that's the first signature. A lot of sewing. This paper is from an argument I had online about dog training. Nature versus nurture kind of discussion. And I ended up printing it out because I needed to type as I saw instead of going back to the comment. And anyways, I like to have okay-ish grammar and somebody to be able to really follow what I'm trying to say. So anyway, so I printed it out so I could do my own little report basically, and then copy and paste it into the comment. So that's what that's from. Then I went back, so after I made the signatures, I did go back and jelly print on there. So just some jelly printing. Like I said a couple of times, most of these are old papers that I was going to make greeting cards out of. Some more of that discussion. I mean, I'm not cussing or anything. You know, I'm not being super rude. Maybe a little snarky. Anyways. This is kind of thin paper, but it's okay. I do prefer thicker paper, like a thinner cardstock, unless it has many paint layers on it, which helps it be a little bit more sturdy. I think that was a stencil, like a film stencil. I think at this time I had one of those fine liners. Of course, that's a stamp. And there is that. Here is the second one, and this is just where I was wondering. I think that's Stabilo. I'm not sure. Let's find out. No, it's not Stabilo. Anyways, it was just a practice drawing bubbles. I don't know. There's some texture paste. I did try to make sure all the writing was right side up. Oh, well, this is upside down. That's okay. That's more arguing. I think the person I was arguing with was sort of kind of PETA. A lot of their information they got was from PETA website. Which is fine, as long as you're not like unhinged. I would still have a discussion, you know, but when you get unhinged, that's when you can't really discuss topics with people. And there's some sweet feed tag. It's more of my practicing bubbles. So that's the middle signature, and here's the last one. I love this stamp. And then on this one, I just did with the sewing machine. And then on some I did the zigzag, and others I did the straight stitch. And this is the only page that I had fabric as part of the page. I think I was gonna do one like this in each one, but I didn't. And this one, so on this side, I usually would put fabric on the other side, but I did this. This is the top stitch. It's pink. So then I went back over here and did it close to the line here because I don't like a lot of space right there. This paper's a little thin, but that's okay. That's the other. At least the rainbows on here are right side up. So yeah. So I did make these squares, the front and back cover separate, so they were like unattached squares that I just covered with fabric. And then I sewn it on here, and then I got so I do like these. I like these rainbows. And at first I started to hand sew them in. This cover, this piece was put on here to cover the other piece and just add a little bit more layering. But I did go back and kind of sew up and down right here. But yeah, that is it for this one. So now all I need is a closure. And I had made a website to sell some, just like a free square website, and it didn't. I guess there's just not enough traffic. Plus I'm not as consistent with posting on my platforms. Give it a little trim. Yeah, I would say, so I'm gonna see if I can take some pictures and do a short video for Etsy, and just do it there. Maybe it'll get some more viewing from people that are specifically looking for art journals. You know, go on there and look for handmade art journals. There's so many strings here. So I will say this is the first time I'm like, maybe that's too much sewing. Too many strings. I don't know. So yeah. Another reason why I sewn in between these signatures is so it wouldn't like open up and be a gap in there. Well, I don't know how big it is. I don't know where I can't find my ruler right now. I was trying to clean up and stuff, and I put a bunch of the stuff I use a lot in a box, and now I can't find it. I'm sure it's covered with jelly papers or something, but there's plenty of room to add stuff. But yeah, thanks for watching.